Hi, everybody. This is Helen Keit, the Keit Team at Keller Realty Landmark. We're doing our Keit Team Talks here, and we like to interview some of the professionals and service providers that we work with and bring information and guidance to you. So today, we're going to talk about legacy planning. And we have Farah Baxter from a company called Soalma. And this is very innovative. We're going to find out about legacy planning. So let me just ask you right off the bat here, Farah, what is legacy planning?
Well, that's a common question that comes up. And we found that legacy, the word, means different things to different people. And, some people think of it as estate planning. For us, it's the impact of your life. And so that can be the impact that you have on friends and family during your life. That can also be the impact after you're gone. For us, it's about gathering all the relevant information, the documents, creating the content to make sure that the impact you're leaving on your family is a positive one.
So then how is it different than estate planning or writing a will? That basic is what we're tuned in to think about.
Yeah, so a lot of people think that the two are actually equal. I think estate planning is a part of legacy planning. So estate planning is thinking about, the legal requirements, a will, a trust. For us, legacy planning is much bigger than that. It's thinking about, what are all the extra things that are not in those legal documents, right? How does my family get access to the life insurance I have? What are some memories that I really want them to cherish for generations to come? It's making sure that when you're thinking about this, you're thinking about the complete picture and not just the legal part or not just the financial part, which is what many people think of.
So who would this be best for, legacy planning? So if it's
Yeah, so I think
audience or group or
Yeah, so I think the people who benefit the most from legacy planning are the people that are receiving the content, right? That would be the family, the friends of our users. In terms of the primary users, we found there are certain types of people that legacy planning resonates the most with. The first one, we have, people that are approaching retirement or recently retired. They're thinking about their future, their family, and they're thinking, I really want to make sure that I get both my practical content and my emotional content in order. And they're thinking about themselves. The other group is their children, right? These could be people in their 30s, 40s, 50s with parents that are getting older. And they think, you know what? One day I'm going to have to manage this. So I really want to make sure my parents are planning in advance when they're young, when they're healthy. And then the third group, I would call them new parents, right? These are parents that have minor children and they're thinking, just in case, if something happens to us, we want to make sure that we have everything in order. So then there can be so many other people that use this, people that have, had an accident, have some sort of health diagnosis, right? But those are sort of ancillary. The core ones are those people approaching retirement or recently retired and their children.
okay, but I can see it really is good for a wide range of age groups.
It's good for a wide range, of course.
Like the combination. So tell me what your company Soalma does. What exactly?
So we take that planning process and we simplify it and we guide our users. It's a self-serve digital tool. And so what that means on the practical side, a lot of people don't do this type of planning because they think, I don't know what to do and I don't have time to do it. And we address both of those. So on the practical side, we have a lot of guides and templates that help our users identify what information and documents they need to gather, and through a simplified process, prompts them to do it in a way that's very easy, even for those who might not have as high a tech knowledge as others. And on the emotional side, we understand a lot of people have they're interested in this type of planning and they just don't know where to start. And so we have a lot of ideas, inspiration for people, prompts on what memories you might want to share with children or grandchildren in the future, advice for special days. Maybe you want to explain why you've made certain decisions in your life as well. And so our tool guides the users on gathering this content or creating it. And we also have a digital sharing capability where you as the user can define who gets access to what and when.
Wonderful. That's how did you come about, creating this company? I know you have a 15-year background of international business. You're highly, skilled, but what led you to form this?
to talk about this topic specifically. It was actually personal experience, both for me and one of my co-founders. People from our respective families had passed away, and we found there was a gap. Now, the definition of that gap was slightly different in both those situations. For me, it was a practical gap where even though there was a will, we just didn't know where anything was. We had no idea where the person had bank accounts, where the paperwork to the car was. These things cause a lot of stress and aggravation because the only person that knew that information is no longer around. For my co-founder, the experience was more emotional. The person who used to give him advice, talk about family history and memories, that person was gone. And when we met, we realized that this is a common occurrence for many people. And by taking a small amount of time up front, you can save your loved ones a lot of time and stress further down. And so we said we'll join forces to create this tool, given our backgrounds, in a variety of business and tech experiences, to create something that was more innovative in this space and help people in, let's call it, one of the most difficult situations that an individual might encounter.
How did you arrive at the name? Say the name. You'll say it in Spanish.
Yeah, so my co-founder's from Spain, and we knew from the get-go that this is an international problem, and we wanted to create an international solution and company. And therefore, having a name that was specific in English or Spanish for him was a deal breaker. We needed to invent something that actually didn't mean anything in any given language, but that was meaningful to us as founders. And so that's where the name came in. We took soul in English and combined it with alma in Spanish, which means soul, and we merged the two. And so a lot of times in English, people will focus on the English word and say Soalma, and in Spain, a lot of people will focus on the Spanish side of things and say Soalma. For us, either one is fine. The important thing is that people are doing this type of planning.
So you definitely make this adaptable for those who are not tech savvy, simple to use. I mean, I know that would be the main question for most users, right?
Absolutely.
Right. And how do you balance like the emotional information that you're gathering with the more technical or basic information? Sometimes it's such a sensitive time.
It is. And what we always advise is that people do this earlier, right? When they're healthy, when they're young. So it actually can be more of, just something you do, right? And it is not a sad moment that, oh my God, the end is near. This is something that can be beneficial during life. The emotional side can be a time capsule. Having practical documents organized can be helpful at any point in life. So we've understood that people, different personalities gravitate to the emotional or the practical. On our platform, both are available to all users, but we've kept them separate. So based off of the person's personality or maybe the mood that they're in that day, they can do one or the other and follow a simple guided process. Now, in terms of what you were saying earlier about, people might be a little hesitant about technology. Obviously, there is a bare minimum of tech literacy required. If someone's never used email or a phone before, maybe they need their children or family members to help them. But if you are well versed with the basics, this should be good enough for you. Everything we do is tested by my mom and seniors, right? So basically the logic is if they can't do it, we have to simplify it. And so we make sure that people have the ability to use the technology. It's nothing, super complicated. We've really simplified the process flow for them. But keeping those emotional and practical legacy components separate, we've actually heard from people, even though it is a very sensitive subject, when you're doing it in front of a screen as opposed to in front of someone that you really dearly love, it actually makes it a little bit easier and takes out some of the negative emotion associated with this.
That's an interesting point. So this is something that can become, I don't want to simplify it that much, but kind of like a journal. So you have events or certain emotional things that you want to add. You can just do that on a daily basis or whenever right?
Absolutely. It can 100% be a journal, a diary. You know, my grandma used to have a diary of what she did every day. Now, we don't need to get into that much detail, but, you know, on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis, people can talk about, you know, things that they learned, things that are memorable to them in their life, things that they want their family members to remember them as or remember as concepts for the future. So it definitely can be used as a journal or a time capsule to think, oh my God, you know, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, grandma had, you know, did this or had this memory. It's really, you know, profoundly impactful.
That makes a big difference. That's interesting. That's it. Because when you think about it, you go for planning your finances, your will. You're on a one-time thing, and then you might review it every couple of years. But this is something that all the emotions and the those meaningful events can be really documented.
Exactly.
Oh, that
Things you want to preserve for the future, right? The moment you held your grandchild in your arms for the first time, your wishes for them for their life. These are things that people have so many thoughts about. Now this is an opportunity to get them down in video, audio form, and picture form, write them down and make sure that they're preserved and can be shared at the right time with the people they want to share it with.
this is wonderful. Tell me, I mean, could they do this on their own? What would be, in some kind of a tech format? I mean, you have it all set up. You've thought through every aspect, I'm sure. Tell me the benefit of just trying to do this on your own.
Oh, doing it on your own. So our platform is a digital platform. It's available on your computer, iPad, and phone. It's mobile friendly as well.
Yes.
So we have it all mapped out from a tech side. Now, someone might ask, can I do it on my own? And the answer is yes, right? For us, the most important thing is that people are doing this type of planning. If they choose to do it with the support of our tool, we love that. But people have said, hey, can I just, write down on a notebook? Write down everything? Can I create folders on my computer? Maybe I have some sort of accordion folder from back in the day. All of those are good tools, right? The important thing is that you're planning. The benefit from doing it with a tool like ours is that it is digitally preserved, so you can share it with people who might not be in the physical space you're in. And also, we're guiding you, right? When you're doing it with a notebook, you have to take on all that extra work of thinking, what do I need to do? How should I organize it? All of that is a mental load that the user needs to take on. But with a tool like ours, you really can just focus on the simple things and get it done in a fraction of the time.
That's wonderful. What do you see as far as barriers to planning, legacy planning, any kind of planning? I mean, with the pandemic, I'm sure a lot of people were caught off guard and because they hadn't planned. And here's an event that just, took loved ones away with a lot of, left untied up, not in the right order. So do you still see reluctance to do this kind of planning, or what do you find?
Of course, of course. There is always going to be reluctance to talk about this product or this topic, right? And we acknowledge that. We realize that there is a subset of the population out there that is ready to talk about this subject. These are people who've started working with a lawyer on a will or a trust. They might have purchased life insurance. Maybe they're working with a funeral director on pre-need planning for a funeral. We want to target those individuals first, right? Because they're more likely to talk about this. For everyone else who's not ready, typically the pushback we hear, there are people who just don't want to talk about the subject at all. That's going to be an evolution over time. For the people who are open to it and are not doing this type of planning, they say, I don't know what to do or I don't have time. Like I mentioned earlier, our solution solves for both of those, right? We can help guide them through what's required. And in terms of the time commitment, on the practical side, I always give people tips and tricks. In as little as 30 minutes, you can get started with a base, right? And most people can create 30 minutes in the next couple weeks of their time. And on the emotional side, in as little as 10 minutes every week, right? Or 10 minutes every couple of weeks, you can create really important content for your family. The biggest hurdle is getting started. And so that's what we recommend people is sort of get started. The rest will happen in an easier fashion.
So what would you say are the next steps for those listening? We'll have your contact information attached here and everything, but how do people go on who are listening, go on to the next step and get their plans started?
Sure. So remember how in the beginning you'd said, who is this for? And I said the people who benefit the most are the recipients.
Wow.
If there is any delay, apprehension of people thinking about this, I'd say take a few minutes in a silent place and reflect on your life and think, who am I doing this for?
Mhm.
Right? And every time you have an excuse or some way to procrastinate, think of their face. Think, I'm doing it for them. Right? So I think the first step is understanding who you're doing this for, because that is going to help you get through the moments where you say, I'd rather watch a movie or I'd rather do something else, right? In terms of a next step, if you are going to use a tool like ours, I welcome people to, reach out to us. You're free to share our contact details. We've put together a special offer for your community to get a special offer as they sign up. I think signing up is the first step, right? And then we have training tools to help people get through that initial process. If people are still hesitant about using a tool like ours, what I recommend is taking some time with a notebook, right? Writing down certain things. But the most important thing is that you're starting these conversations. So with the people you love, just have a conversation. We want to normalize these conversations, that it is not this taboo thing, that it is something we do out of love for the people that we're closest to. So I'd say reflect on who you're doing it for, sign up, and start the conversation.
Very nice. Let me ask one more thing. I'm sure it's digitally safe, locked, other people can't get access to this. It's yours and your people, those you sign up.
Absolutely. That is the first question that normally comes up when we're speaking with clients. And it's top of mind for us. We're always building with security in mind. On our website, we have a page dedicated to security where people can look through all of our security initiatives to understand, how your data is safe. And we also work with organizations. And what we tell organizations such as estate lawyers, life insurance companies, and any organization is we welcome their security and tech teams to chat with ours to make sure we're meeting their standards of security. So across the board, security is top of mind for us. More information on the website.
Wonderful. This is really a valuable tool. I can see how many, would want to use this once they just get the idea of how this operates. So sounds simple. I'm going to take a look. We're going to attach all your information. One last, anything we've missed, anything you'd like to talk about here, Farah?
I think the key thing is keeping that concept of peace of mind top of your mind, right? You're doing this for peace of mind for yourself and your loved ones, that you have done everything possible for them and that you're leaving them with a legacy and not a mess.
Not a mess. Fabulous. Well said. That is terrific, dear. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for
And
having me.
we're going to get all your information out and make sure everybody knows about this. Wonderful.
Absolutely.
You be well. Thank you.
Thank you. You too.